I think it opens up a new way of looking at Bacon's work, a whole new kind of perspective. Like most people, I'd always thought of Bacon as primarily a painter of single figures, usually single figures, in claustrophobic spaces, studies of man, of mankind, in extreme situations. And then I realized that animals were much more than a walk-on part. They were often almost the main subject, or certainly an important subsidiary subject. So out of that, I began to wonder whether it would be possible to do an exhibition that included both Bacon's studies of mankind and of animals, and the relationship between the two. What that meant, how Bacon's whole vision of humanity had been formed through his interest in animals, in animal life. There are a lot of animal images, and what's fascinating is that sometimes the animals look less ferocious, certainly less fierce, less savage than the people, the human figures in Bacon's art. So there's this whole kind of changing relationship between animal and human, between man and beast. I remember him saying to me that one of the things that interested him most about animal behavior, about studying animals, about looking at animals, was the fact that they were less inhibited than human beings. They showed themselves as they were. And that interested him, because that's what interested him about studying mankind, as it were. He wanted to know what they were, how they reacted, what they were essentially made up of. And he felt that animals took you to that truth much more directly and quickly, and that they were also a kind of a guide to humanity. These images are still horrific. They're still very raw. They're still, in a sense, almost too much to bear, because they look at life with a sort of pitilessness. And I think most people find that very difficult to countenance, let alone live with. The rawness, the power, has been to some extent absorbed over the years. I mean, we're talking now of, yes, about 80 years of experience of Bacon, and yet it still releases a lot of shock, a lot of surprise, a lot of, well, jolts really, visual jolts, when you realize what these images are saying. They are, in a sense, without hope. They're very much statements of fact. It's the brutality of fact, that was a phrase that Bacon used. And that is still very much present, and it's something that the spectator still has to deal with. The work has been hung in these very grand spaces, and gives Bacon totally the authority of an old master. But it's an old master that's still screaming, as it were, from the past with an urgency that most art loses. And so it is an extraordinary experience to see Bacon from a different perspective in a different context, such as the Royal Academy. I've been building my sort of opinions about him for 60 years, but I feel I'm going to have to start again and see Bacon anew.